Okay, so country music.
The only dark I like is when I turn off the lights. The only hood I love is pointy and white. Can't trust you if I can't see your face at night. I think we all know we're going out. Wait, hey!
Okay, so I avoided talking about this in my butt rock video, but in terms of generic, mass-produced, insecurely masculine music, it's probably the most relevant, at least in the States. But that is a totally different subject. And I also want to make it clear that this isn't in regards to all country music or the genre historically. I know that there are tons of anti-capitalist, anti-state, folk, and country musicians in the past, as well as currently. And there seems to be a rising wave of alternative country artists who are making great music. But recently, Jason Aldean released this banger.
Sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady.
And it's inspired some discourse, so let's talk about it real quick. Okay, let's give this song a listen. Okay, weird. Okay, well, those different things are different. I wouldn't really compare burning the American flag to sucker punching a person on the sidewalk or carjacking an old lady, but okay. Let's see where this goes. Okay, so from what I'm getting, if you commit a felony or burn the American flag, apparently, you should be murdered by local townsfolk. It's kind of weird.
Got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round up. Well, that shit might fly in the city.
Oh, so we're going full clan now, I guess. Who's the they in the scenario? Okay, let me chill and let him explain what he means.
In a small town full of good old boys, raised up right. If you're looking for a fight.
Okay, so this language is kind of pointed, linking crime with the inner city, brandishing your granddaddy's gun to oppose some vague and violent threat, and linking up with the good old boys to enact mob violence against a person. It's giving...
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. You start out in 1954 by saying, by 1968 you can't say nigga, that hurts you, it backfires, so you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously maybe that is part of it, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than, you know. So any way you look at it, race is coming on the back burner.
So that was Lee Atwater, political strategist to the Republican Party, and also an advisor to Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush during their administrations. He was well known for his use of controversial campaign strategies, notably something he called the Southern Strategy, a Republican Party electoral strategy to increase political support among white voters in the South by appealing to racism against African Americans. Like he said in the speech, Lee Atwater would use coded language in which the byproduct of the political gains is
blacks get hurt worse than whites.
And that pseudo-plausible deniability is what's important here, because it allows someone to use discriminatory language without, slinging slurs or saying anything directly bigoted. It's kind of like the I'm not touching you game, but with racism. And this is what we call political dog whistling. Political dog whistling refers to the use of coded or suggestive language in political messaging to garner support from a particular group without provoking opposition. The concept is named after ultrasonic dog whistles, which are audible to dogs but not humans. But what does this have to do with good old boy Jason? The song itself seems to invoke a sort of antagonism that seems to be directed towards the BLM George Floyd protest of 2020, a time where black folks and folks who were in solidarity with black folks protested brutal police violence and the murders of unarmed black people. And Jason lumps these things in with crime and the burning of the American flag for some reason. I'm not sure what that has to do with anything. Good old boy Jason then goes to conflate these two things and communicates that if they happened in a small town, that folks would just be emboldened to beat the shit out of you. And this bothers me for a few reasons. Inner city crime and poverty are inextricably linked. And this doesn't mean that all poor people commit crime, but this is to say that the crime that does happen in the city, and in most places, is linked to the desperation caused from having a lack of resources, being that the cost of food, housing, or healthcare that continue to rise while wages themselves remain stagnant. 2, homogenized white neighborhoods in the U.S. have a murky history of discriminating against black homebuyers and renters, and sundown towns are still a sad reality for many black Americans. Homie literally filmed this video at a famous lynching site. The proliferation of Confederate imagery and its linked to traditional American values is often used to communicate that certain spaces aren't necessarily safe for black people or queer folks. And the imagery in this video, specifically the shots used of protest or robberies, are used to insinuate that city folks specifically are inherently violent or deviant. They then juxtapose the robbery footage with the mom and pop shops of small towns. And we also see this with the recent scapegoating of things like Drag Time Story Hour, where something that is innocuous and good for children is made out to be dangerous, deviant, and sexual. And that's generally the conservative framing of dog whistling, using imagery and other things to scapegoat an other for a societal issue, instead of actually dealing with the sociological causes of said issues. So let's talk a little bit more about our good old boy Jason. It seems that he has a lot of smoke for young folks who are fed up with the growing militarization of the police, or for random folks who want to burn a piece of fabric. First off, it's important to understand that Jason is not from a small town. He grew up in Macon, the fourth densest city in Georgia as of 2020. Once his mom and pop separated, he spent the summers in Florida with his father, where him and his dad would play songs every now and then. He eventually went on to play clubs in Atlanta and then Nashville. Not knocking him, because a lot of people grow up in single-parent households, and it's important and amazing that he had parents that were super supportive. But the privilege of having two parents, the institutional gift of being able to go to a nice private school, and the handful of connects from his dad gave him kind of a leg up in the music industry and allowed him to get started. There's so much to be said about people profiteering off of the small-town aesthetic or humble rural life aesthetic, specifically in country music, but in reality, they're from the city like anyone else. They go on about upholding traditional American values and working on a farm or whatever, when in reality, they're kind of upper middle class spoiled kids. who use the aesthetics of working class culture for a come up. And like I said, in country music, it's pretty common. Like the Southern strategy, folks like our good old boy Jason here use coded language to garner support from a certain type of person that they know they can relate to. But in reality, it's more of a costume or a character played for clicks and views. Now that we're talking about it, where was this Rambo, Walker, Texas Ranger energy when the mass shooting happened at a Jason Aldean concert back in 2017? Like, it would be unreasonable for us to believe that Batman head-ass Jason Aldean would garnish his granddad's gun and subdue and find the shooter himself, right? Even though that's kind of what his song is insinuating. So why doesn't Jason have any smoke for the people actually terrorizing us? Or criticize the cops who are supposed to be protecting children and fail to do their job? But no. He ran off stage when that happened, which makes me wonder if his fans fall into the protect our own category he was singing about. But these are just my quick thoughts on the song. What did you think? Also, thanks for watching. Like and share this video if you found it interesting. And if you hated it, let me know in the comments. I'm generally interested in what you think. And if you'd like to support me or the channel, I have tons up in terms of drum videos here. A like and a share always helps those videos as well. And if you really rock with me, I have a Patreon where I offer drum stems, exclusive content, and I'll be working on some more stuff on there too. You can get more unfiltered opinions about music and stuff like that, as well as some performance footage from recent tours and a bunch of other things. But that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.